Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. It's time, once again, for another depressing dose of dismal Disney. Yes, there is a definite lack of magic these days for dismal Disney, its CEO Bob Iger, and Disney's employees. Right now, Disney is laying off 4,000 employees as part of Iger's $5.5 billion in cost cutting that intends to see a total of 7,000 employees lose their jobs before the start of summer, as I have talked about in recent videos. But in the ongoing battle in what used to be called the Reedy Creek Improvement District, that Disney had operated since 1967 as its own special governing district via an agreement with the state of Florida, as soon as Governor Ron DeSantis' handpicked board of the recently renamed Central Florida Tourism Oversight District voted to void a development agreement that the Reedy Creek Board had enacted in its final days over who would hold the reins on the sprawling theme park, Disney has filed a federal lawsuit against DeSantis and his new handpicked district board members. The now dissolved Reedy Creek Improvement District had oversight over such things as infrastructure, roads and development, and also had powers of taxation, as well as the ability to take on bond debt. This situation began last year after then Disney CEO Bob Chapek caved to internal pressure that came from Disney's woke employees for him to make a public stance against a then recently passed Florida parental rights bill that came to be known as the Don't Say Gay law. And the recently fired former Marvel Studios executive Victoria Alonso has publicly said that she was one of the voices that had pressured Chapek, as I had talked about in several recent videos. In response to Chapek's public stance against the law last year and with growing presidential ambitions, DeSantis and the Republican-controlled Florida state legislature immediately passed a law to dissolve Disney's Reedy Creek Improvement District. Then, to protect the residents of several Florida counties that were within the Reedy Creek Improvement District from inheriting its over $1 billion in debt, DeSantis and the Florida legislature created a replacement district earlier this year, whose board members would be appointed by DeSantis himself. But before the creation of the new district and its DeSantis-controlled board, the Reedy Creek Improvement District's board that was still under Disney's control approved a development agreement with Walt Disney World to ensure that the Disney company would retain control over the development of its own property and the land surrounding it, regardless of what the DeSantis appointees were planning to do. So in response to the DeSantis-controlled district board voiding the Reedy Creek development agreement, Disney filed a lawsuit and released the following statement yesterday. Disney regrets that it has come to this, but having exhausted efforts to seek a resolution, the company is left with no choice but to file this lawsuit to protect its cast members, guests, and local development partners from a relentless campaign to weaponize government power against Disney in retaliation for expressing a political viewpoint unpopular with certain state officials. The governor has relentlessly attacked the company as a woke corporation and said this month that the Florida government is exploring a series of possible actions against it, including increasing oversight of ride safety, boosting assessment valuations of its properties, and even slapping tolls on the roads leading into its resorts. He even suggested that a state prison could be built near the theme parks. The Disney development agreement had been approved in open meetings that had little media coverage, and then only drew attention in the past month when the DeSantis-selected board members said that they had discovered that their authority was greatly constrained. DeSantis then vowed that his board and the state legislature would move to invalidate Disney's development agreement. In its new lawsuit, Disney refers to the efforts to repeal the development agreement as a legislative declaration, saying in the lawsuit that a targeted campaign of government retaliation orchestrated at every step by Governor DeSantis as punishment for Disney's protected speech, now threatens Disney's business operations, jeopardizes its economic future in the region, and violates its constitutional rights. It adds, because the legislative declaration retaliates against Disney for its protected speech, Disney is entitled to a declaratory judgment that the legislative declaration is unconstitutional and an order enjoining defendants from enforcing it. In a statement, DeSantis' communications director, Taryn Fenske, said, "We are unaware of any legal right that a company has to operate its own government or maintain special privileges not held by other businesses in the state." In claiming retaliation, Disney's lawsuit chronicles DeSantis' statements as he moved to dissolve the special district and later take control of it. Governor DeSantis has let no doubt be harbored as to the impetus for his punishment. He wrote in an article to promote his book, "When corporations try to use their economic power to advance a woke agenda, they become political and not merely economic actors. Leaders must stand up and fight back when big corporations make the mistake, as Disney did, of using their economic might to advance a political agenda." The lawsuit also references DeSantis' quote in February as it became clear that the state would take control of Reedy Creek. "There's a new sheriff in town, and that's just the way it's going to be," he said, apparently unaware of the Disney development agreement. The company also pushed back on DeSantis' claim that Disney was trying to pull a fast one on him. None of this was true. As explained, these contracts followed public notice in the Orlando Sentinel, no less, and public hearings. But despite the facts, the political story was set, and the retaliation only got worse, the lawsuit stated. Disney said that the development agreement is based on a comprehensive plan that got the sign-off from the governor's staff last year. The lawsuit claims violations of the First Amendment, as well as the Constitution's Contracts Clause, the Fifth Amendment's Takings Clause, and the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause. Disney is asking the court to declare that the effort to void a development agreement is unlawful and unenforceable. The company also wants a declaration that the state legislature's bills to dissolve Reedy Creek and then take control of it were unlawful and unenforceable because they were enacted in retaliation for Disney's political speech in violation of the First Amendment. So essentially, Disney wants the court to completely undo what DeSantis and the Florida legislature have done over the past year in order to get the Reedy Creek Improvement District back for itself. I don't know whether a court will say that a corporation is granted freedom of speech through the First Amendment, but I also won't be surprised if that happens. Nor is it clear whether Disney could win at least part or all of its lawsuit. But what Disney's lawsuit filing does at least show is that the company has been hurt by the loss of the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which probably would not have happened had Chapek not taken a public stance against Florida's Don't Say Gay law last year. I wouldn't be surprised if the firing of Chapek last November and the firing of Victoria Alonso last month were in part connected to the loss of the Reedy Creek Improvement District and the now negative business environment that Disney now has to deal with within the state of Florida. I'll also point out that not all Republicans support DeSantis' actions against Disney, which have drawn criticism from Donald Trump, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, and Nikki Haley, and she told Fox News that if Disney would like to move its hundreds of thousands of jobs to South Carolina and bring the billions of dollars with them, I will be happy to meet them and introduce them to the governor and the legislature that would welcome it. It will be interesting to see how Disney's lawsuit plays out. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to see more of our videos in the future and help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.